Welcome everyone to our developer call. Thank you those who sat through the AV chaos before. Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about a lot of cool things. So, without further ado, we are going to dive into like the system of optimism, like the stability, uptime, and some recent features that we've been working on. Then we'll dive into the protocol, which is like how we're thinking about the next big version of optimism. Then we'll go into some updates about the cool things that we've recently overhauled just for you. And then we'll look at our contributor corner, so all the amazing ways you can contribute to optimism. And then we'll end off with a nice little Q&A. So without further ado, Matt, take us
Hi.
away.
Thank you, V. My name's Matt. I'm the systems team lead. V, does the community know kind of like what the systems team is and does really quickly? Okay.
No.
So I'm just going to do a brief intro on that. So we've got a protocol team. We've got a systems team. We work really closely together. The job of the systems team is to help implement the protocol, work on the existing system that we have, so that extends to like V1 and also the stuff that we're currently running in production, and also maintaining everything that we're currently running. And so over the past, I'd say it extends over more than just the past month, but pretty much since November of last year, we've really been doing a bunch of like deep work trying to improve the stability, uptime, and performance of the system. And then the goal here is to eliminate downtime as much as we can and increase throughput as much as we can, because we expect over the next year that we'll be seeing a lot more usage of the Optimism system. So I'm going to enumerate a couple of these things. A lot of these are going to be internal, but just remember that each one of these things that we're expending effort on is done so that we can improve the performance and stability of our system. So I'm going to just talk briefly about what some of these things are. So the first thing that we did, and we did this in order to make sure that we were able to effectively remove the whitelist, is lots of new internal testing environments that stress the system before we roll out changes to prod. So previously we had Gurley, Kovan, and Kovan we kind of treat as production, and mainnet, now we have an internal nightly testing environment, as well as a couple of others that basically put the system under load so that we know before something rolls out, one, that it works, and two, that it's not going to degrade the overall performance of the system. And so that all hooks up into these kind of nice metrics dashboards that we then use to measure the performance impact of every new thing that we ship. And we were able to do this successfully with ACD. We know exactly how much traffic and transactions per second we can support. In sort of like a worst case scenario. We haven't met that yet, and that's why we were able to release ACD with such a, ACD was our internal term for it, but remove the whitelist with like a level of confidence that I don't think we would have had previously. The next is we have new release processes that make when we ship code more predictable. Previously, it was kind of unsaid, but would ship on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've kind of formalized that now, and everything that goes out to mainnet is on Kovan for at least a week beforehand. And the goal of that, again, is to make sure that we understand how something behaves before we put it on mainnet. And so we're also a little bit more predictable with when we ship stuff. One of the major pieces of feedback we received from infrastructure providers and other folks that are running replicas and running nodes, et cetera, is that they didn't know when we were going to ship stuff. And then when we did, they didn't have a lot of warning when they had to upgrade. The reason we did this is so that there's always a kind of minimum amount of time before people have to upgrade, and they know exactly what we're shipping and when. And an example of that is this hasn't exactly been announced yet, but we're going to be changing the gas schedule to fix some of the last EVM equivalency bugs that we have. That's going to be going live next week. And when that does go live, there's going to be a week before that hard fork activates. So you have a full week to upgrade your nodes if you're running them. Stay tuned. We're going to have a couple of announcements around that very shortly. Next up, we've run into problems with infra providers in the past, not having enough capacity. So now we're running these proxies in front of our infra providers for things like kovan.optimism.io and mainnet.optimism.io to give you an idea of the level of scale that we have to handle to service those public endpoints. We're doing 180 million requests per day right now on mainnet. We expect that to go up a lot. It's really expensive to run those endpoints, not only because, routing it to one infrastructure provider is a lot of money, but we have to route it to multiple in case one of them falls over. And so, we're investing the money and the time to build these sort of like proxy failover tools to make sure that those endpoints stay up, even when people do, they want to launch a token or, some new DeFi app launches or whatever it is. We're able to service that, although you shouldn't use the public endpoints for your prod apps. But we want to make sure that we're able to at least service those endpoints and they won't go down and crash hard like they have in the past so that people can launch successfully. Lastly, we have a new status page. If you haven't seen this already, status.optimism.io. We're using that to keep track of what we launch and when, and also if we ever do have downtime, alert the community to what the status of the downtime is. You can subscribe to updates there, and that's kind of the canonical place that we're going to be describing status going forward. Previously, it was like a combination of Discord and Twitter, other places like that. Status page is the place to go now. And then lastly, I know I said lastly before, but it's the morning. We've got a new batch submitter coming. This is you probably won't see a ton of difference here from like the user perspective, but what you will see is that the amount of overall throughput that the system can support will go up as a result of the batch submitter. So you can submit transactions to L2, but then those transactions need to be rolled up and posted to L1 before they're sort of considered canonical. The better batch submitter makes that process faster, and as a result, increases the number of transactions that we can handle per second. So that's systems. We're doing Q&A at the end, or we're doing Q&A now for sort of this for each portion.
Nice. We don't have any questions yet, but they probably will take a while to build up. That's normally how normally how they go.
Sweet.
Yeah, sweet indeed. Let me just double check that's true. Yeah, no questions.
Cool.
All right, John, you want to take us away? Do you have slides? Do you want to present?
Yes. Yeah.
All yours.
Alrighty. Let me see. Okay. Now I'm ready. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about, as V put it, the next evolution of our Optimism protocol. So we have learned a ton from the time that we've been designing and building and operating optimistic rollups on Ethereum. And so there's been we have a lot of ideas about how to improve the way that things are operating. I'm going to talk to you about some of those, like how that's going to look and how you can get involved and some of the benefits that we'll see from that. So, Optimism 1.0, this is really going to be the big shift in our protocol upcoming, hopefully in the coming months. Not super far off. So I already really said so what I'm going to do, first I'm going to talk to you about the design goals behind the 1.0 iteration of our protocol. And then I'll talk to you about where we're at right now, where we're headed, how you can get involved. So we're really working on what we found was a challenge with the existing system, and especially the OVM, which you may recall is no longer with us. Rest in peace. But it was very difficult for people to wrap their heads around. And so we've learned the need for it to be really well specified. So that means in practice, we're really taking our time and putting the effort into to clearly define what we're building. We have a team of currently 4 people entirely committed to this protocol design process. We spend all our time arguing about how to say things properly in the specs. That's a bit of a joke. We do other stuff, but we do care very, very much about making things clear. So that gets to the well-communicated portion. And then, of course, well-tested. So we're developing both the specifications and a reference implementation at the same time, and then also working closely with our systems team to productionize that and make sure that it's something that can actually run in production and work and live up to the demands that we expect everyone to place on it. And so another part of our goal is that handoff to systems that I talked about. So allowing them to work from our specification, and then to also iterate on. Actually, so this is fraud proof. We are now saying fault proof. So this needs to be updated a little bit. Fault proof, fault proof, fault proof. So the design goals behind this project: one, low latency. It should be. I'll go through each of these to be very specific about what they are in slides quickly. So low latency, scalable, modular, developer driven, secure, decentralizable. So what does that mean? Low latency, we mean specifically when users send transactions, they get reliable confirmations quickly. I believe that the number is 2 seconds maximum. So you send a transaction within 2 seconds, you should know, according to the sequencer, that is going to be included in a block. The block should be finalized in the sequencer. The sequencer should be able to give you the full block that your transaction will be in, and you should know the result of your transaction. It should be scalable. Obviously, that's really the whole point of everything we're doing. So it should be possible to handle an enormous number of transactions per second, because this will enable us to charge low fees. Our design will use modularity to reduce complexity and enable parallel contributions. So this is, I think, a big part of what we learned is that we really need to double down on making our designs modular, having clean separations between the different components of the system, for a lot of good reasons that I won't go into here, but I think are generally self-evident. And then developer driven. So as an organization, we always have been, have wanted to be as developer driven. So like building for developers to build on and making that experience excellent and basically equivalent to Ethereum. So in developing this next iteration of the protocol, we are always talking to users, talking to our integrations team to understand from them if the things that we are designing will fly, if that is going to be, if that's going to work for you guys. And so, yeah, nothing gets specified, gets into the spec if it's not going to work for people. And I'll make sure that I show you like where a lot of this discussion is happening so that you can involve yourselves as well. Security, I'm not even gonna say explain it. It's really easy to pay lip service to security. So it's important, obviously. And then decentralizable, everything has to have a clear path towards decentralization. This is going to be a big theme for us this year. So looking at the roadmap, I'm mostly just putting this here to scare you a little bit. I'm certainly not going to talk about it. I'll tell you, we're kind of right here-ish. But I have distilled this down for you, and it looks a little bit more like this. So just give me 1 second. So we're here right now, building, have built what we call a deposit-only rollup, which is a fascinating construction, in my opinion, that I'll get into more. And then sequencer rollup is the next thing we'll be doing. So that basically builds on the deposit-only rollup. And this is, this is like, we are just full on driving to this. Once we've got this, we can go to production with it, and have the system that Optimism is going to be running on in perpetuity, I don't think is too strong. Like, yeah, that system will evolve, but I don't think it's too strong to say like that, that's the system that we'll be building on from then on. And honestly, like the system that we think will be the right way to do an optimistic rollup, an EVM equivalent optimistic rollup, it would be silly to use any other design than what we're building right now. So what are we at right now? What is the deposit rollup? So it's basically a minimum viable rollup. In some ways, you might think, like, you might hear how this design works and think it sounds a little bit like a toy, but it's the central core of that we are building on top of. It took us a while to get to here, and the other layers are going to start coming much more quickly. So the deposit rollup has no sequencer. The only way to send a transaction on layer 2 is by first sending it on L1. I've referenced like the ctc.enqueue, which is, if you know our system, it's the canonical transaction chains enqueue function. Some of this terminology is changing. But anyways, like basically, and then we read logs from blocks that basically we take the L1 state and we convert it into L2 state. And then additionally, we do something. So here's like a nicer image of it. We also use the term a pure function to describe it. So you can really think of this as like, there's a picture of L1 and there's data on L1, the Ethereum mainnet. And so what we've done is like we've designed a rollup where the entire L2 state is derivable from reading L1. That is a rollup. That is the same now. But we've massively simplified like what it means, what that L1 state must be, and how we convert it into the L2 state. So it really means like you can, for every L1 block, you have an L2 epoch. Epochs contain multiple L2 blocks, and they're never more than 2 seconds apart. And there's a direct one-to-one relationship between these blocks. So now I'm going to just walk over to like actually, I think like show you where the work's happening, walk you through, show you the contract that is replacing that canonical transaction chain. So this is the contract that lives on L1. This is the contract on L1. It's called the deposit feed, as we're calling it, as in contrast to the sequencer feed. So the idea there being that there are basically two feeds that provide data for generating the L2 state. And so in order to interact with the L2 chain, you deposit transactions. So you call this function, you provide the familiar transaction inputs, the recipient, the value you want to send, the gas limit, etc. What? I feel like I'm missing a little bit. I might be on the wrong branch here. Where's my? But this gets the idea across. So it's all about this event is kind of everything. So this is going to emit logs, emit events. We read these logs and we generate the L2 state. The way that we're doing this at a bit lower level is we have the op node. So it's a rollup node, which is communicating between, it's really using the, can I still say ETH2? I'm stuck saying ETH2 still these days. So like the ETH2 paradigm of having a consensus engine and an execution engine. So in that paradigm, L1, Ethereum mainnet, is our consensus engine, and we provide the newest blocks. The rollup node reads the newest blocks, submits them to the execution engine, and that computes the state transition and gives you the resulting output. That's like, clearly I'm not expecting anybody to like really, I'm sure somebody out there totally understood that, but not everybody will. But where does this, if you want to learn more, the repo's here. There's a lot, like we're quite active with discussions here. So asking the community for input on our design decisions that we're making, and just like allowing you to see insight into the progress we're making. Another interesting view to get into the project would be to look at the milestones which we've recently created. So they all have this milestone epic prefix, and you can find them. They're labeled C-epic. So this is laying out the path to these, to having this running on in production, as well as some of the milestones beyond having it running in production. So I really encourage you to follow along there, to ask questions in Discord if you like. And I believe, yeah, okay. So I only have this link here. I'll be honest, I don't actually know what the best place in Discord to participate is. Maybe V does. But that's all I've got.
Yeah, if you wanna get involved, especially on this side of things, on the spec side, we actually have a specs channel. So just go to get a role, get the development role, and then you can see the specs channel and discuss the specs in there. But without further ado, back to the hustle. So our new doc site. Look how absolutely gorgeous this is. This has been a labor of love, you guys. We have completely overhauled it. So now you've got this beautiful doc site. Everything works. We have a great, like, if you don't really understand how optimism works, or don't really understand L2s generally, go read this amazing introduction our very own Meme Lord wrote. It's really good. It's quite in depth. It covers everything, and it's not too technical, so you can still follow along even if you aren't, if you don't have like a deeply technical background. We also have guides. So if you want any guides that you aren't here, please like let us know, and we will add it. So we have one for wallet developers, centralized exchanges, getting your token on the bridge, adding your custom token to the bridge, developing smart contracts. And these are just really nice collections of all the resources you're going to need to do the thing. So definitely check it out if any of these apply to you, or if you want a specific use case added, let me know on Discord. We have the protocol specs. So speaking of of Optimism 1.0, you should come check this out for all the various steps involved. Then we have, of course, the main meat of the docs, which is the developer doc. So covers all the important things that you'll need, goes quite in depth into some like specific stuff, known issues, all the good stuff. And we have tools, so all the tools you need to really do things on a blockchain. So really covers everything. We've put a lot of love into these docs. So if you have any feedback, please do let us know. There are get in contact and edit this page links on every single page, so don't feel afraid to knock it out. And then the next absolutely incredible thing we've overhauled recently is our website. It still looks quite similar, like it's quite the same, but like under the hood, it's much better now. We've added a bunch of apps and dApps and all those incredible things to our website. So if you're not really sure what to do next on Optimism, go check it out. We have lots of things, specifically NFTs. We're doing quite well. And then we've also updated our about page, which is really nice. So you can go check out our timelines when we're planning on doing things. Like, yeah, if you want to come work with us, there's lots of openings. So don't feel scared to come and get involved. Um, yeah, and then last but not least, we have Elena with our Contributors Corner. Do you want screen share?
Yeah, can do. Talking about if you want to come work with us. All right. So in terms of contributing, I think the best place might be to just start from the contribute page, which on the website that we just shared. So there's a variety of ways to contribute. Protocol specs, what John was speaking about is the overhaul of the protocol towards version 1.0. There's work on the documentation, which has just launched. We're getting, I think, currently around 7,000 unique visits per month. So there's a lot of traffic there. We need to make sure the content is up to scratch. So go and read the content, submit issues on the Community Hub. If you're into documentation, tutorials, and the theory behind optimism. In terms of the actual hands-on systems and engineering work, there is probably the best place to start is the good first issues on the Optimism monorepo, which you can have a read through the contributing guidelines. It's quite thorough in terms of ways to set up your dev environment, different ways to contribute, workflows, etc. And I think once you're ready, there's a bunch of good first issues here. I think for the more confident or for the people that have contributed before and need something that dives deeper, there are Gitcoin bounties that we post. Currently, there's a couple. I'm just looking for the best ways to find these. So on Gitcoin, under the Optimism repo, there's a couple of open bounties there. So generally around integrations and contracts work. So for example, currently we have the Ledger Live integration for Optimism, which needs planning and doing. And also it's something like the standard bridge, but in inverse, which we are planning on doing. So the so-called native token bridge. Essentially, this will serve L2 native tokens, so tokens that have been created and set up on Optimism that needs to be bridged back to L1. The good thing about this work item is that essentially it's the design for it is there in the space of the standard bridge, if you're familiar with how we bridge tokens and Ether between L1 and L2, but essentially it's in reverse. So here we need to bridge L2 tokens back to L1. So these are the couple live Gitcoin bounties that we have. We have a bunch of good first issues as well. You can go and check them out and just follow the org for anything new. I think that's nice. That's nice and short, V. That's me.
Lovely. Damn, we ate through that. All right, cool. So now it's just Q&A, but I think we might want to do that just on Discord. Not on here because I'm not going to be able to hear anything on here. So I think me and Kelvin will hop across to the Discord and just answer any questions that come up. But yeah, we finished nice and early as well. So thank you everyone for your patience, your time, and especially for all of our incredible teammates for taking the time to come and explain all this stuff to help make the community understand better. Incredible. All right, guys. We'll see you on Discord.